What's going on, Charlie?
Hey, Chris. How are we?
Good, good, man. I've loved your hustle and your quick evolution in the whole real estate investing game, all the way to the point to maybe we'll get to it later, but where you're actually building new construction for Airbnb. So to start off, question of the hour: what should people consider when they're starting their very first short-term rental?
Yeah, probably the first question is, do you want to self-manage or not? So I kind of found my niche self-managing a Disney Airbnb about 7 hours from a 7 hour drive. Well, with kids, it's a 7 hour drive, and it turns out it's not as difficult as you'd think if you use systems and leverage local service providers.
Yeah.
And you can actually make a ton more money that way, but you have to be willing to put up with all the fun things that potentially come with that. All the issues are now your issues instead of your property manager's issues. But some people have a stomach for that, some people don't. But that's probably the first thing you need to consider, because that's going to make a huge difference on your ROI when you start analyzing properties.
Oh, true. And I mean, what are the key distinctions between like long-term, like your traditional, renter, and then short-term rentals is you're not providing housing, you're providing hospitality, you're providing experience, which that rolls into a completely different type of management system, right?
Very different, absolutely different, and it's all about getting those 5 star reviews. So you have a totally different mindset. It's not cut and dry. Here's a 3 bed, 2 bath house in this zip code. It'll rent for this. Like the spectrum is wide of what your income can be, and it's very dependent on how well you perform and how well you serve your guests. So you're kind of taking serving tenants to a whole nother level. You're now basically you're a Hilton, you're a Marriott, you
Yeah.
are a hotel for all intents and purposes, but it's a little bit better than that. It's a little bit more personal, and because of that, it can be a lot more fun. So I got every time I get a 5 star review from someone, I get so excited. Like it's just it's heartwarming when someone's really excited to stay in your place and they give you that review.
Yeah, I like that when you said personal, because this is not comparing it again to the long-term lease, a just set it and forget it type thing. It's very ongoing. It is personal because you literally have some individual, some family out there are saying, hey, we would love to stay at your place. So that is an honor and privilege for you to provide that. But then you actually have to perform and make sure, like, when they leave, were they as excited to the whole thing? Because what has your experience been dealing with some of the challenges that come up during a stay? Like, how are you mitigating that? You're 7 hours away. Even if you were to fly, it's not like you're going to be there in 10 minutes. So how are you mitigating some of those challenges?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You got to have 2 key service providers. You got to have a killer handyman that is local and can show up with, at the drop of a hat. And you got to have an awesome cleaning crew. Everything else you can kind of figure out, like, oh, there's a problem with the AC. Okay, let me look up the closest 5 star AC company if I haven't done it yet, right? That's easy to do. Call them, have them come out. But you got to have those 2 local experts that are there all the time, or are willing and able to show up, even if it's not their cleaning day, or
Yeah.
not the day you scheduled to do that fix or that upgrade. After that, you can kind of get everything else settled out. But those are the 2 big hurdles. If you have those 2, you're golden.
It makes life a lot easier. And Jamie's been, I would like to use the word critical, but it's not even that. It's like, if it wasn't for her, like, we wouldn't really have an Airbnb business. There's just no way I'd be able to manage it. But she's been able to find those 2 key pieces that have made life so much easier for her in managing them. So, you've bought existing homes or properties to turn into short-term rentals, which is traditionally what people are doing, but you're actually doing something a little different now, or at least you're in the progress of building new construction for the purpose of short-term rentals. What's the thought process there?
um, I will say the startup cost is a little higher because you're going to have a little more vacancy than a turnkey initially, and you've got to furnish the darn thing, and instead of buying a furnished rental. So those are 2 things to keep in mind. But the reason I went with new build is honestly, it's because it was the easiest thing to buy right now with this crazy market. Like I
That's
could get
true.
in there with almost no bidding war on one of them, no bidding war on the other one, and I could get in there, and it gives me time to figure it out. Right? Okay, put a little bit of down payment in there, and then hey, I've got 5-6 months till it closes, and then I can, put a down payment on the next one and figure that out
Mhm.
later, right? So that's kind of been the process. Is hey, at least these are things I can get into right now. Um, the nice thing is you have fewer capex to worry about. You've got a builder's warranty. You've got a few things kind of going for you that you don't have to worry as much about compared to an existing property, especially older ones.
Yeah, and I know some folks that are doing this for actually long-term rentals, but your yield is typically higher for short-term rentals. I mean, your overall costs are too, because you have management. Even if you're self-managing, that you have time involved there, but you have other costs as well. Do you have an idea of what type of yield you'd be expecting, or folks should target for a new construction? Because from what I understand, on at least a monthly rental, like a long-term, short-term comparison, 2, 3, maybe upwards of 5 times what you'd expect from a long-term rental. That's kind of what a lot of folks are targeting for short-term rental. But from a yield, what are you expecting for the new
Yeah,
construction?
it depends on the market, and if you count all your costs to furnish and permits and all that good stuff up front, if you put 20% management in place, you're looking at a 10 to 15% cash on cash, which I know is not excellent. Now, if you look at the loan pay down, it's of course 5 to 7% more, and then tax benefits that on top of that.
That's still pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
again, there's added risk, but that's still good.
but you can get 25-30% if you self manage, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm going for, because if I systematize everything, it takes me 1 or 2 hours a week, and then that most of that I can give to a virtual assistant per property.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. As you're growing, you're building the vertical. Like you're building that management system in house and putting systems in place that can take care of that at a cheaper cost than using third party management. Well, one of the things, and no, I'll get your final thought. That I thought with short term rentals is it essentially allows we've never had this opportunity before to have your own McDonald's. So McDonald's is they have the way of affording the most expensive real estate in the world by just putting a hamburger stand there. But otherwise, they own the most expensive real estate in the world. So now with platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo, like we can do that. Um, there's still risk involved, and COVID things happen, but you can buy new construction and actually have that cash flow, but you still own the asset. So, final thought: what folks should consider before jumping into this game?
I think people need to be aware that they can systematize things like this. I mean, it just takes a few tools, a few smart devices, and there's a setup time involved. But after that, I mean, you could do this yourself and manage it from afar. As long as you have a couple good teammates and a system in place, you can knock this out and keep 20-25%, which I think is massive. If you're looking for financial freedom, uh, to me, this is the way to go about it.
Because you're doing this with, I mean, it's not like you have a lackadaisical job. You work for the government. You're in the Air Force. You've got a lot of responsibilities there. So you're able to do this. So it provide, yeah, you're absolutely right. It does provide a lot of options and potentially even some financial freedom if folks want to build that out. So I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Chris, I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Take care.